You're still watching Ways now. On September 10th, World Suicide Prevention Day is about reducing suicide rates, representing over 1 in every 100 deaths worldwide. Suicide is more prevalent among vulnerable communities suffering discrimination, refugees, prisoners, indigenous, and LGBTQIA+ people. Now, there is a strong need to raise awareness on the stigma surrounding suicide, which is still punished in more than 20 countries. Now, to avoid further suicide attempts, we also need to educate on how to accompany survivors. Studies prove that open conversations are way more effective or efficient than avoiding the subject of suicide. And that's why we are also lending our voice to today's World Suicide Prevention Day. So, have you had anybody close to you?
Oh, no, not anybody close to me, but I've heard of stories like, everyone else. I've heard of stories where people just couldn't deal with it anymore. And, the thing I cannot understand, I think I was in a room once where people were talking about, suicide. And then somebody said, they're not strong enough to face things in this world. And I'm like, if only we can understand that, again, this is some form of illness. Something that needs to be treated and talked about, and not that the person was not mentally strong enough. For me, I think that suicide is linked to mental illness and also the support and societal ills.
Makes sense.
Yes, because, for example, what will make someone think that life is not worth living? That's
irrespective of how tough life has been.
Exactly, because the truth of the matter is not just the rich, it's not just the poor, it spreads across. So you see wealthy billionaires that jump off a story building, or they just die. Why? And I think these are the things that need to be investigated. People fail exams and they die. Why? What's resulted in that? What's the home like?
I mean, there was a report, I can't remember where I saw that report, but I saw it on social media this week, I think about 2 days ago, where they said EFCC said they were going to investigate. They just called the guy to be investigated in one of the parastatal. I can't remember which of them now. And the guy just went and committed suicide.
Wow.
Yeah, he just hung himself. So it's like, there's no point for me to even go through this.
There's no point to be subjected to any interrogation.
Like you rightly said, a lot of times
it's a medical condition.
Yeah, people just feel like, I can't come out of this.
I can't do this.
No, so if they are in a fix and all of that, I can't come out of this. So I'd rather they don't see any iota of hope. So they just say, let me just end it here.
And then there's a punishment side. No, why do you punish someone that was trying to end their life? Putting that person in jail, please, excuse me, how is it helping? So sometimes we need to sit back and take a look at these things. Instead of you to send the person for some sort of psychiatric help, or talk to the person, or even sometimes we need to collect data and find out why.
Just
so
like
if we even know
you're
why,
right to
we
think
can
it's a
prevent
medical
it.
condition, because just like addiction is, a lot of people do not know that people struggle with being addicted to something, and they think that they lack self-will and self-control in order to overcome them. Until my recent conversation with a friend, and she made me understand that being addicted is actually a medical condition. There's a particular chemical in their brain that fires, that prevents them from having the ability to resist the urge to continue to perpetrate whatever it is they're addicted to. Whereas on our own hand, if you're able to manage the addiction, you just assume that, you lack self-control. For example, an alcoholic or someone that is addicted to smoking, that's why you don't have enough strong will. Whereas it's actually a medical condition that needs help.
Do you know what, Minola? The funny thing is that people always kind of put together addiction and bad things. We're all addicted. Most of us are addicted to food. See how
I'm addicted to coffee.
The first thing some people do when they wake up is check their socials. You are addicted to it. The dopamine that comes from seeing a like or seeing something. So you can stay there. So addiction can range from very harmful substances to things that you did not even know or take seriously that you're having. So addiction is not always, should I say, it's not always tilted to negative or bad behaviors like smoking, drugs, alcohol.
But they say too much of everything is actually bad. So
that's what I'm saying, that we are all guilty.
We're all guilty of
You're here, you cannot even stay 2 minutes without Instagram. Or like
I can I like your phone, by the way. Thank you. I love coffee unapologetically.
All right, Milola, so what did you find for us in the news?
So what I found in the news is actually a follow-on on our last story, which is about the doctor strike. this is the fourth time we're mentioning this conversation, and it is newsworthy. Really, we can't talk enough about the importance of the doctors getting back to work, because as of last week when I took that news, I talked about where people other than even patients were suffering. A lot of businesses around the hospitals were suffering, and a lot of transportation companies were having issues, and it goes on and on. Thankfully, our president has met with the doctors. He says that Buhari meets NMA as doctor strike enters day 40. It's been 14 whooping days.
Did we have to wait for 40
having
days?
Doctors not being in the hospitals? I mean, that is pretty alarming. How can we be comfortable with our hospitals running without doctors? Just patients that have life-threatening illnesses at the mercy of nurses and regular care workers. Anyways, the president has met with the Nigerian Medical Association at the State House in Abuja on Friday after 40 days of strike. The meeting was also attended by the Minister of Health, Dr. Osage, and the Minister of Labor, Chris Ngige, Minister of State for Health, Olorunibe Mamora. The whole conversation is around the fact that the president advises the people to go back to work and discuss and try and negotiate as against taking their hands off the job. In a quote, he said, the lives of citizens could be lost or damaged when doctors withdraw services. They are precious enough to be worth opting for peaceful resolution of differences as against going on strike. So the president feels that irrespective of their personal grudge or their demands, they should take their job as a call, like a ministry. So that is enough alone for them to stay on the job while they negotiate and discuss peacefully with their leaders as against going on strike.
The only question I have is that which of the hospitals does our president use again in this country?
That's a question you have to go and ask Mr. President once we finish this meeting.
That's the only question I have. That's the only question I have for Mr. President. Which of the hospitals and who is your doctor that is, in Nigeria working with you?
It is something that should be that is newsworthy. We should discuss that next time.
Yeah. That's why it would even have entered day 40 in the first place.
40
All right, so
to laugh, sorry.
Okay, what did you find for us?
So my story is linked to what we're talking about today, and it's taken from the Punch. It says, VAT, court asks all parties to maintain status quo. So I'm sure that we've all seen what's in the news. Everybody's talking about the VAT thing. Some states celebrating that they would now be controlling their monies. Some states are not saying no, the federal government should still, control that, collect. FRS should still collect that. But guess what? So 2 governors had gone ahead to implement in their state, Rivers State and Lagos State. And the news is saying that all parties should remain status quo. Just stay. Don't activate yet. And I think it's really, really a big one, because we're talking about trillions here.
A lot of money.
Yes, it's a lot of money. So the appeal court sitting in Abuja is adjourned to September 16th to hear the application of Lagos to be joined as a respondent again alongside Rivers State in the appeal filed by the Federal Inland Revenue Service challenging the judgment of the Federal High Court, Port Harcourt, regarding the issue of the value-added tax collection. The court also ordered that status quo antebellum be maintained, that stay the way you are until they listen from the FRS side their appeal. And I think this is very, very funny, because some states don't want this to happen, because the national pot feeds them.
Pocket.
In fact, it's pot. It's a big pot. It's a big pot. And so I can understand the war, and this would be a very big one, because for states that actually collect, they see themselves as, this is revival. Like, we can't use our money to better use, but it's no brainer while states that don't produce anything would argue for this. So let's look at it play out, And I'm really very happy that that's what we're discussing today.
Yeah,
and would hear the views of our very controversial guests.
All right, so I'll just do a follow-up on what you just talked about, VATs. And this is the story from Rivers State that says businesses enter near panic mode in Rivers because so the story goes, especially in Port Harcourt, a lot of businesses, especially in Port Harcourt, have gone into fear and panic mode following the conflicting orders and threats from both federal government and the state government. For the federal government through the FIRS, as the Federal Inland Revenue Services, and the state government, the Rivers State government. The major panic stems from the fear that FIRS payment could be flexible and may and many aspects could be waived, but with local revenue collectors, the journey could be tortuous and rough, such that every kobo would be paid if the locals are, I mean, that's the states are allowed to. So this, I mean, there are a lot of things, what's it called, brewing.
Exactly, it's not going to be easy.
Yes, you know, I was listening to Tunji Andrews on Marianne's show just before we came on live, and he was talking about the confusion, because there are no clear terms in terms of, there are no clear terms in to say, okay, these are the exact same thing, or this is the exact thing we'll tax you for, or whatever. We don't have clarity.
Exactly.
So when states are agitating, when
14 million naira.
When
small
business, okay. When states are agitating to collect taxes and all of that, it's a bit, so we need to understand. I am actually very lost. I do not understand what's going on.
You're not alone.
Yeah, and I would really love, I hope we'll be able to find our guests, you know, for us to continue the conversation. But we'll do that right after the break. Please stay with us. We'll be right back.